Hello, Jain and everyone. Welcome to Worldwide Virtual Classroom, Jain Virtual Classroom. This is Stress Management Workshop, session number 28. We are currently doing case studies by taking different life scenarios and applying the different Jain concepts of stress management in terms of seeing how we can solve such a scenario. And today we are going to cover a scenario about depression, uh, how the state of depression manifests, and how we can overcome it. What are the causes of it, and what a person goes through it, what type of thought process person goes through it, what are the root causes, and what can we do about it. So let's see who else joined. Hitesh
Yeah, hi,
joined.
Himal.
Oh, Hemal is here. Okay. Hemal, we are going to do a scenario on depression today. Okay. Okay. So with that, what I would like to do is I'll share my screen. I'll take notes here. Okay. So and later I can send out these notes to everyone. Okay. So can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So scenario is basically state of depression, right? So first of all, I'd like to understand basically what a person, what type of thought process a person goes through, and what does he really go through? Not just the thought process, but his symptoms, his lifestyle. What does he really go through in mind? What medically? What's the considered state of depression?
I sort of see depression, Pratik, in two different aspects. One is sort of the medical lingo jargon in which there is a chemical imbalance in the brain, specifically serotonin. More often than not, however, is often whether it's in conjunction with a chemical imbalance or in reality, it's often a life circumstance change that leads to the depression in the first place. The chemical imbalance predisposes or can exaggerate symptoms of the depression based on a life event.
So what is it? What does the person really go through in it? When will you call it that person is going through depression? How can you identify depression? What really goes on?
Disinterest in eating, disinterest in doing any activities, disinterest in engaging and talking with other people, sleeping too much, empathy, lack of activity.
Disinterest in eating, daily activities, engaging socially. Disinterest in physical activities. What else did you mention, Ethan?
I think you got him.
Excessive sleep, maybe excessive sleep. And but also, does a person also go state of hopelessness, maybe?
Hopelessness, feelings of sadness.
Okay. What else? What else person goes through? So this is basically what he really feels like. Now, talk about in the physical symptoms. What does he go through in the physical symptoms? Any particular specific physical symptoms the person goes through, or everyone reacts differently to it?
I think that's greatly varied.
Okay. I've seen a lot of people becoming obese in depression. I don't know if everyone goes through it.
It can go both ways.
Yeah, I think.
Sometimes people overeat to compensate for it, and sometimes people undereat to compensate for it.
Okay. So what I'm going to put here is possibly overeat. Okay. Then I was reading some article. Article was also mentioning about that leading cause of suicides in the world was about depression. Is it also true, Ketan? Does depression also lead to suicides?
It can,
Can
when it gets to that extreme phase of hopelessness.
okay. So this is very severe. I mean, just the thought of having depression is like can disrupt an individual's life completely, right? Person will lose hope altogether in life, any optimism, completely be disinterested in doing anything in life. And can you also tell us about general length of depressions that people experience? I know it can greatly vary, but some people can go it. What's the minimum length people may go through it? Maybe weeks or months.
It depends on the circumstance, I would say. That is greatly varied, Pratik. But, if it's a simple kind of a thing, it can be just several days to weeks. If it's a minor kind of simple thing.
Minor depression can last days or weeks.
Major depression can last years upon years.
Can last years or up to lifetime sometime.
Sure.
Okay. So this is the state of depression. This is a scenario that we described. Is there anything we are missing? Anything that someone would like to add? सौरभ जी आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे about depression? What a person may be going through? सौरभ जी, are you there? Okay, so this makes sense so far. All right. So next thing, let's see. Let's now use this format and let's start analyzing this whole thought process. Okay. First of all, let's look at one thing. In a scenario, you should always define. Suppose now, here, think about, we all have to put ourselves in this scenario. Okay. We don't want to analyze someone else. Just think of ourselves that if we are to go through this scenario, what could be possibly going wrong? Okay. So in this scenario, what is our problem here? And now going back to that point, Ketan, where in medical profession, it is also thought to be caused by maybe chemical imbalance, right?
Right.
And also it could be circumstantial issues that people may be facing in their life. But one thing I'd like to ask here is the chemical imbalance. A lot of times I like to take a different example. When we go through different emotions, different type of what do you call endocrine systems trigger and trigger different type of hormones in body. Right, that is in reaction to our thought process. Also, similarly, kind of like when we are fearful, our blood pressure kind of goes high for that moment when we get feared or we get scared, things like that. So here, what's the cause of what? Where is the cause and effect relationship? Because there's one saying, right, that what is the saying? Coexistence is not necessarily cause and effect, right? Or cause. Just because something happened simultaneously doesn't mean there is a cause and effect relationship in it. So causation, it's very important to define cause and effect relationship here, even if it's in the sense of instrumental cause. Good to know whether just because something happens in parallel doesn't mean they're instrumental to each other either. So here, do you think that chemical imbalance is a result of individuals' thought process that started early on, or the chemical imbalance itself is triggering that thought process.
So from a Jain perspective, the thought process would be that, let's take the example of a loss of a loved one, a parent who's died, and that leads you to depression.
Mm-hmm.
In that circumstance, what many people would often say is that the cause was that my mother passing away is what caused me to have the depression.
Mm-hmm.
In Jain philosophy, those would be unrelated. One does not have anything to do with the other, but that is paryai, that something changed, that paryai changed to have you go through those feelings. So I'm not sure if that's what you're trying to get at, or
What I'm trying to say is, from an absolute perspective, from the absolute Jain perspective, yes, it is correct that in reality, the true cause is not a circumstance. But I mean, from a practical point of view that we define in Jainism, which is Vyavaharana, if you were to accept that yes, person went into the state of depression, then what was the instrumental cause in that scenario? Then you can say that yes, instrumental cause in this scenario was basically the death of a loved one. And in worldly life, you don't necessarily use a word instrumental factor a lot. We just say that this caused this. It is okay, even in worldly life, it is okay to say that, although it's not the real fact of life for the worldly statement purpose. Even Jainism would say yes, death of the loved one caught someone in a depression. But when you are trying to establish a real cause and effect relationship, and first, let's not even go to absolute cause and effect relationship. Let's just first go through the instrumental cause and effect relationship. So what is instrumental to what? So here what I want to understand is, did the thought process trigger the chemical reaction in the brain, or the chemical reaction in the brain triggered that thought process that led to that person into the state of depression?
chemical process is underlying. It's already there.
Correct. But what I'm saying is, is that necessary? Is that necessarily what triggered that thought process, or was that already there and then the thought process came in?
I would say that the chemical process was already there.
Okay, chemical process was already there. So would that be the case for everyone who goes through depression?
No, not always.
Okay, all right. So then, but what we are defining here is the depression is a state of feelings, right? This is all about state of feeling, what person feels basically. Is that correct or not? So
Yes.
this whole disease is defined in thought process in general. Although whatever symptoms we see are externally, but it's primarily about what person feels. Is that right or not? So then the real problem is here lies in the thought process. So we need to understand what really triggers that thought process. And if we say that the chemical imbalance can trigger it, then the chemical imbalance could be there for many people, but then they may not be in this state of thought process. So then that is not necessarily an instrumental cause. Then yes, you can definitely say if that person experienced a shock due to a loss of loved one, went into the state of depression, you can definitely say that yes, instrumental cause was that death of the loved one, because his attachment and his attention was so much, and his thought process is also about the loved ones, that okay, I have no life without my loved one and I cannot survive. So that it's very much into his thought process and an external to his thought process. So that's why it's a instrumental cause. Does that make sense? But the chemical imbalance, although it may be there, a person is not even thinking about chemical imbalance, right? And even if for a moment, if we assume that okay, the chemical imbalance may be there in many people, but that person did not go through, even when earlier he had that chemical imbalance, he did not go through that thought process. At that time, even though there was a chemical imbalance, there was no thought process like this. So what I'm trying to come to a point is, from a Jain point of view, chemical imbalance could be a merely after fact of a depression, or maybe a side effect of depression, but not necessarily a one that triggers the depression in itself. That's the conclusion that I'm trying to reach to here. It's primarily a disease of a thought process, and the only reason that really leads to depression is incorrect thought process or mentality. Because primarily it's a disease in a thought process and in a mentality. So unless and until the mentality changes, it won't happen. Because we see that someone who has a correct thought process, sometimes they go through extreme scenarios and still don't go through that state of scenario, state of depression. It's a primarily a feeling of in the thought process, and only incorrect thought process leads to that. I'd like to get Saurabh's opinion on that. Saurabh, आपका क्या
Yeah.
कहना है? Bodily imbalance या physical imbalance depression कर सकता है? Can that cause a depression, or it's just about incorrect thought process?
Actually, the depression is incorrect thought process, but the incorrectness from may come from any source. It may be from the words of someone. It may be from physically. It may be the circumstances. But the main problem is that how you take anything. So that is the thing which create mental stress.
So basically, Saurabh, that incorrect thought process, in the presence of incorrect thought process, external events can trigger the state of depression, right?
Yeah, of course.
Basically.
External.
So chemical imbalance. What I'm trying to get to is a chemical imbalance is a less of a role to play here, and more important is basically a thought process. So our problem, the real problem where we should focus in terms of solving, is a thought process of an individual or of ourselves. How do we change our thought process? So,
How do we?
so now, now next thing, before we start solving this problem or think about solving this problem, everyone agrees that we need to focus on our thought. Can anyone say something? Everyone agrees. Ketan, do you agree that we need to focus on the thought process?
Yes.
Do you agree that we need to problem on our thought process or the mentality?
Agreed.
Okay, right. So next thing we should do is we should kind of analyze this state from a point of view of Jainism in more details. That will give us a detailed characterization of things. So state of hopelessness. Now you know this can come from so many different things. Okay, I mean we can take just one scenario which leads someone to depression. So you know, because it can vary so much. Ultimate result is this extreme state of hopelessness. It can come from so many different sources, from so many external events. If we want to take one event, what should we take? Huh?
Pick one. Anything. Divorce, death, loss. Anything. Pick one.
You guys tell me. Help me out. Here.
Let's do death. Death of a family member. That's what we started with.
Okay. Death of a loved one. Okay. All right. So wrong conduct. What type of wrong conduct we will be possibly going through? Anger, ego, deceit, greed, you know, attachment, hatred. There are no kashayas, right? No kashayas as well. You should list them. What are those no kashayas? सौरभ जी, आप वो जो 9 कषायस है उसके नाम बोल सकते हैं जरा? सौरभ जी, Okay, let's go through one by one. It's one of them is shok, which is grief,
Fear.
fear, boy. So yeah, boy is fear. What's the third one? Rati,
Yeah, Rati, Arati.
Arati, which is uh, hatred or aversion. What's next? Tiraskar,
Hasya.
Hasya. Okay, that's going to be controversial.
Jugupsa.
Jugupsa. What is Jugupsa? What's the English word for it? Is there an English word?
Yeah, it's written disgust.
Disgust. Okay. So Tiraskar, more like disgust. What else? Purushved, Strived, and Napusangved.
Trived, Napusangved, yeah.
Okay. So these are sexual. These are sexual desires. Okay. So these are pretty much 7, 8, 9, 9 Nokashas. Oh. And Kashayas are basically anger, ego, deceit, and greed. Krodh, Man, Maya, and Lobh. Okay, all right. So oftentimes when we studied the Nokashas, we studied the definition. The Nokashas are the pseudo passions, which eventually leads to the complete passions, real passions. They're more like partial passions. And these are more like real passions. So, in this particular scenario, let's go through it. Due to loved one, do we experience grief? Definitely, right?
Yeah.
Due to death of loved one. So grief or sadness, that's all part of it, right? You can also call this a sadness. Death of a loved one. So this grief is about basically, oh, I missed my loved one, and now what do I do? And just having the sense of hopelessness due to the death of loved one. Now, what also follows is oftentimes is a fear as well.
Yeah.
We have fear, right? I mean, why? I mean, we do fear.
Yeah.
Fear of being alone.
Fear of being alone. Yes.
How will I survive.
Fear of survival. Fear of society sometimes. That
Mhm.
okay, how will society think of me now since I'm alone now? How will I be treated? Will other people treat me now? Will people take advantage of me now?
Mhm.
How will I live without him or her? How will I survive? What will I eat? No one will be thinking about eating just at that moment, but on the back of the mind, these are the fears. Who will take care of me? Who will give me company now? So also, people we feel, what about my status in society? Will people give me same respect? And I just want to highlight something that not everyone goes through the same type of thought process. These are just as general things that, although we may not explicitly think about it, some of the unknowns, hidden fears that we may not even recognize sometimes. Okay? Any other thing someone like to add? Okay, Rati, which is intense attachment towards loved ones, loved one. Basically, here also, I cannot. We also think many times I cannot imagine my life without my loved one, or I cannot live without my loved one. Like his or her company very much. I never want to be separated, loved one. These thoughts are the example of Rati, right? Attachment. Anyone like to add anything else? सौरभ जी आप कुछ ऐड करना चाहेंगे इसमें? Okay, Arati, what type of pleasure do we go through? Anyone? Priyanka, Ketan?
Yeah, like this interest in doing anything.
Yes, this interest. Now I don't in daily activities,
Yeah.
family life, what we described earlier, basically all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Social life, don't like it. Laughter, less applicable in this scenario. Disgust, possibly disgust about the present circumstances, losing someone and not seeing hope in life. Because we are trying to escape from it, right? So we want somehow escape, and we just don't like. Although the problem with real problem in the state of depression is a person knows he doesn't like it, he doesn't want to be there, just somehow cannot find a way out of it. He just feels trapped. He just sees no hope. So there's this definite state of dislike or disgust there, disgust about the present situation, disgust about the circumstances that he's finding in himself, basically. And this may or may not happen. If someone went into the depression because of the sexual reasons, then probably this may apply, but here probably doesn't apply. And anger. Ethan, are you there?
I am.
Ethan, do people in depression sometimes express anger or like?
Absolutely. Anger at the circumstance. Why did he die? You know, that kind of thing. Absolutely. It is one of the stages of grieving is to be angry.
Yeah. Why did this happen to me? That's a state of anger. Actually, a lot of times we don't even realize when we have that frustration. Why did this happen to me? It's a state of anger we are in. Don't want that. And okay, possibly blaming external situation is also a state of anger. The state of anger that happens. Maybe state of possibly thought of taking revenge, or possibly thought of being suppressed, that people are suppressing my rights or suppressing us or whatever. It depends also, on how the death of the individual took place. If it was, a murder or something, possibly these things may come into play. And here, ego. Basically, when we talk about status in society and all those things, how will people treat me, people's attitude and behavior. When we are thinking about people's attitudes and behavior towards ourselves, an ego. Deceit may or may not come into play here. I mean, it's always there for different reasons, but in this particular scenario, may or may not be there. And lobe. I mean, whatever we are attached to, it is a lobe basically. It is a lobe, right? Whatever we are, we have attachment or greed or loved one. Saurabh, are you there? Saurabh? Hello, Saurabh? We cannot hear you. I wanted to ask, there are, 24 types of, no, 24, yeah, 24 types of parigraha that are mentioned in Jainism. And out of those 24 parigrahas, there are 10 external parigrahas, and then there are others, 14 are internal parigrahas. And in that one, basically, this family and belonging is defined as one of the parigraha, external parigraha. So that greed for loved ones' presence, it will sound very awkward for general people outside of Jainism to define this love for the loved one as a greed. But in real sense, it is a greed, right? It is a greed. You don't want to let something go, which is beyond your control. It is not going to last forever. Possessions may be something that you will not get because of the death of an individual. So suppose someone is, if someone was, there is definitely loss. There is a loss of earning, right? When a person goes away, sometimes we also on the back of the mind that okay, our loss of income, loss of possessions. Don't take this in an incorrect point of view. We're not necessarily saying that okay, all these emotions are wrong, and the individual living in a family life should never have attachment for a family member or anything like that. That's not what we are saying. We are simply analyzing the state of a person who is going through depression, and then basically see okay, what is inappropriate for that moment and what is appropriate at that stage. Some emotions may be appropriate at that stage where he may be in. For example, okay, having an attachment to a family member, it's going to be given, right, as long as you're in relationship. Otherwise you wouldn't even exist in the relationship. But what should be the nature of such an attachment? To what level, with what attitude, what is the attitude that should be that a person should have towards that type of attachment, so that it doesn't lead to eventual harm? That's what we are going to discuss in coming things. So this is a state of conduct that we have analyzed in detail. State of belief, oneness. Well, oneness is definitely there with body, right? That's why we think of ourselves as someone who is related to someone, because we associate ourselves with body. That's the first association. Minus loved ones and possessions. Doership. So doership also comes into play, that we can, we can control or save something. Like to say external objects, and then in the wrong knowledge we can apply that. And then suffering. Situation. So these are at the core. These four beliefs are at the core of what we are experiencing here actually. Now, in the wrong knowledge at that point in time, you can apply. Okay, what's really specifically going on? That becomes your wrong knowledge, because that's what you know. This is quite inherent. It exists. But here, in oneness, we are thinking about ourselves as body, right? That I am created or whatever. That's my thought process. That's what I believe. That's what I know myself as. Minus this family and my loved ones are mine, and they will stay with me as long as I want. Although we all know that no one will stay with each other for as long as they want, this is what we wish, that they should stay with me as long as I want. Doership, I can save my loved one, or I could not save my loved one. Now, a lot of times this is what a person feels at that time. I could not do anything to save. And sometimes that's where the frustration lies. And then suffering. I cannot live without my loved one. Or this incident has caused a lot of damage to me, my life. So, these are the things that we normally go through, right? I mean, normally these are the things that we think of. That's a wrong knowledge at a given point in time. What type of external behavior? We are already at 11 o'clock. So we'll just finish this external behavior section and then we'll continue about what could be the right thought process at that time, or what could be the right conduct and right belief and right knowledge at that time. And then we can talk about how can we get there basically. So what type of external behavior a person goes through in this state? State of depression due to the death of the loved one, crying, weeping, and depending upon how the death occurred, it could be possibly blaming. Priyanka, what else? Anything that you can think of? All the other things we talked about here. We
Yeah.
can put it here.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So we covered, these are all the physical or external things that we see. With that, we may also see different physical things manifesting in body, right? Someone becoming more obese, someone losing weight, someone having some other type of disease due to depression. We may all see as a result of this. Sometimes they may or may not be related, but we see that a lot of times. So today we just analyzed the state of depression to the death of the loved one. What type of thought process a person goes through, what is the incorrect thought process, that's what we see. We concluded that the real problem, the state of depression is a feeling manifested in a thought process. The thought process, incorrect thought process or mentality is where the problem lies, and that's where the real focus should be. And that's what we are analyzing. Next time, we will cover what the correct thought process would be and how do we get there. Any other questions so far? Was this helpful?
Yep. Mhm. It would be helpful more like if you send this document to everyone.
Yes, I keep forgetting it. I'll definitely send it this time. Okay.
Okay.
If you have any other questions, we can discuss next time. Jai Jayendra, everyone, thank you for joining. See you all next time.
Thank you, Jai Janendra.
Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jayendra, Siddharth.